a dark time, learning about Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler's name is tied to the bad things that happened in the 1900s. He is one of the most infamous people in history. His name makes us think of hate, violence, and the terrible Holocaust. Born in Austria in 1889, Hitler ended up in Germany. There he became the leader of the Nazi Party. Hitler's ideas were full of extreme nationalism, hatred of Jewish people, and a desire for power. These ideas caused a world war. Millions of people died because of what he did. It's important to learn about his life, how he came to power, and his scary government. It teaches us about the dangers of hate and how easily peace can be broken. From Austria to Germany, Hitler's early life and failed dreams. Adolf Hitler's early life was full of disappointment. He was always looking for his place in the world. He was born in Braunau am Inn, Austria, on April 20th, 1889. He was the fourth of 6 children. His dad, Alois, worked for the government, and his mum, Clara, was a housewife. Hitler's childhood was tough because his dad was strict, and some of his brothers and sisters died. He became interested in German nationalism early on because of the political situation in Austria-Hungary. When his dad died, Hitler moved to Vienna. He wanted to be an artist, but the art school didn't accept him, not once, but twice. This made him angry and feel like a failure. War changes everything. World War I and how Hitler became a fanatic. World War I started in 1914 and changed Hitler's life. He really wanted to prove himself, so he joined the German army. He thought the war was a chance to be a hero. He carried messages on the Western Front where the fighting was brutal. Hitler was hurt twice in the war and got a medal for his service. The war changed how Hitler saw the world. Germany lost the war in 1918 and Hitler felt ashamed and angry. He blamed people in Germany, especially Jewish people and communists. He said they caused Germany to lose. These dangerous ideas of nationalism, anger, and anti-Semitism became the basis of his future political beliefs. The Nazi Party grows, from beer hall speeches to national power. This is the story of how a small radical group transformed into a dominant political force in Germany. After the war, Hitler went back to Munich, a city with lots of political and economic problems. The city was in chaos, with high unemployment, inflation, and widespread discontent among the population. He joined a small political group called the German Workers' Party. This group was one of many small factions trying to gain influence in the unstable political climate of post-war Germany. They had the same nationalist and anti-Semitic views as Hitler. These views resonated with many Germans who were looking for someone to blame for their hardships. Hitler quickly became important in the group. His charisma and oratory skills set him apart from other members. He was a good speaker and made promises to make Germany great again. His speeches were filled with passionate rhetoric and promises of a better future. He changed the group's name to the National Socialist German Workers' Party, or Nazi Party. This rebranding was part of his strategy to broaden the group's appeal. The Nazi symbol was the swastika. This symbol would become infamous worldwide as a representation of hate and terror. Hitler's message was popular with people who were struggling because of the bad economy and political problems. His promises of economic revival and national pride struck a chord with many. He blamed Jewish people, communists, and other groups for Germany's problems. This scapegoating was a key part of his strategy to unite people against a common enemy. The Nazi Party, with Hitler as its leader, became more and more popular. Their rallies grew larger and their influence expanded. They became a powerful force in German politics. By the early 1930s, the Nazi Party was a major player in the political landscape, setting the stage for their eventual takeover of the German government. From Chancellor to dictator, Hitler's control over Germany grows. His rise to power was swift and calculated, leaving a lasting impact on the nation and the world. 1933 was a very important year in German history. It marked the beginning of a dark era that would change the course of the 20th century. The political landscape was shifting rapidly, and the people of Germany were caught in the middle of this turmoil. The Nazi Party became the biggest party in the Reichstag, the German government. This was a significant turning point as it allowed Hitler to gain a foothold in the political arena and start implementing his radical ideas. This happened because people were scared and the political situation was unstable. The Great Depression had left many Germans desperate for change, and Hitler promised to restore Germany to its former glory. On January 30th, 1933, President Paul von Hindenburg made Adolf Hitler the Chancellor of Germany. This appointment was seen as a way to stabilize the government, but it ultimately paved the way for Hitler's totalitarian regime. This seemed legal, but it was the beginning of the end for German democracy. The Weimar Republic, already weakened by economic and political instability, was now on the brink of collapse. Hitler quickly took more power. He was a master of manipulation, using his oratory skills and propaganda to sway public opinion and consolidate his control. Someone set fire to the Reichstag building, and Hitler used this to take away people's freedoms and arrest his enemies. The Reichstag fire decree allowed him to suspend civil liberties and target political opponents. The Enabling Act, passed in March 1933, gave Hitler the power of a dictator. This act allowed him to enact laws without the Reichstag's approval, effectively dismantling the democratic process. This ended the Weimar Republic and created a totalitarian state. The Nazi regime now had complete control over Germany, and dissent was not tolerated. Hitler then made Germany a one-party state. The Nazi Party was the only legal political party, and all other parties were banned. He made all other political parties illegal. This move eliminated any potential opposition and solidified his grip on power. He removed his enemies from government jobs. Anyone who opposed him was either dismissed or arrested, ensuring that only loyal supporters held positions of power. He used the Gestapo, the secret police, to scare and control people. The Gestapo's tactics were ruthless, and they instilled fear in the population, making resistance nearly impossible. Propaganda, or information used to influence people, became very important. The Nazi regime used propaganda to control the narrative and shape public perception. Joseph Goebbels, Hitler's propaganda minister, controlled all media and used it to spread Nazi ideas and make Hitler look like a great leader. Through newspapers, radio and films, Goebbels crafted a powerful image of Hitler and the Nazi Party, ensuring their dominance in German society. World War II begins. The shadow of tyranny spreads across Europe. The world was on the brink of a conflict that would change the course of history forever. Hitler wanted to make a bigger German empire. His ambitions were not just limited to Germany. He envisioned a vast empire that would dominate Europe and beyond. He believed that Germans were better than other races. This dangerous ideology was spread through relentless propaganda, convincing many of his vision. This made him start taking over other countries. His aggressive expansion began with neighboring territories, aiming to unite all German-speaking peoples. He rebuilt the German military, which was against the Treaty of Versailles. This rearmament was a clear violation, but it went largely unchecked by other nations. He then started to take control of other parts of Europe. Each conquest emboldened him further, making him more determined to expand his reach. In 1938, he took over Austria. The annexation, known as the Anschluss, was met with little resistance and even some support from the local population. This was easy for him and made him want to take over even more land. The success in Austria fueled his ambitions, setting his sights on Czechoslovakia next. World War II started on September 1st, 1939, when Germany invaded Poland. This invasion was swift and brutal, marking the beginning of a global conflict. This started a terrible war that lasted 6 years. The devastation was unprecedented, affecting millions of lives and reshaping the world. Hitler's blitzkrieg, a fast style of attack, worked very well at first. This tactic overwhelmed enemy defenses, allowing for rapid advances. German forces took over much of Europe. Country after country fell under Nazi control, creating a vast occupied territory. They forced Nazi rule and cruel policies on millions of people. The occupied territories suffered under harsh regulations and brutal enforcement. The world watched in horror as Hitler took over more and more of Europe. The rapid expansion of Nazi power was a grim reminder of the dangers of unchecked tyranny. The Holocaust, a terrible crime against humanity. The Nazis hated Jewish people. Hitler blamed them for Germany's problems. This hate caused the Holocaust. The Nazis and their helpers systematically murdered 6 million Jewish people. Jewish people were treated terribly. They lost their rights and belongings. They were forced to live in ghettos and then sent to concentration camps. In these camps, prisoners were treated horribly. They were forced to work, starved, tortured, experimented on, and murdered in gas chambers. The Holocaust is a terrible example of how cruel people can be. It reminds us of the dangers of hate and the importance of respecting everyone. The end of Hitler, Hitler's final days, and the end of a nightmare. Germany started losing the war and Hitler's power weakened. Allied forces attacked Berlin from the east and west. Resistance groups fought against the Nazis in the countries Germany controlled. Hitler hid in his bunker in Berlin. He was alone and losing touch with reality. He still tried to control his army, even though it was falling apart. On April 30th, 1945, Soviet soldiers were almost at his bunker. Hitler killed himself. He also killed his new wife, Eva Braun, whom he had married a few days earlier. Hitler's death marked the end of the Nazi regime. The world began the long, difficult process of rebuilding. On May 8, 1945, Germany surrendered to the Allied powers. World War II in Europe was finally over. Learning from the past, never again. Adolf Hitler's life is a warning to everyone. He came to power because of hate, propaganda, and fear. This shows us that democracy is fragile and that extremism is dangerous. The Holocaust, which killed millions of people, reminds us of what can happen when prejudice is not stopped. It shows us how important it is to protect human rights for everyone. We must learn from this terrible time in history. We must fight against all forms of intolerance and discrimination. We must protect democracy. We must remember the victims of Hitler and work to create a world where this never happens again. Never again are important words. They must be more than just words. They must inspire us to create a more just, caring, and peaceful world.